All right, have and have not fans, here's my episode review for Second Chances, which aired yesterday on June 4th, 2019. Yeah, I actually passed out from like 3:30 to 9:20 last night. I don't even know what happened, but it was a busy day around here getting things done. But overall, thank goodness for the Watch Own app. I did manage to finish up the episode, and instead of doing the review, this episode left me with a lot of questions, and I did like a lengthy live stream on Instagram with Chandler. And if you haven't started already, follow me on Instagram. Links to my social media are in the description below. And I did say that within the next 2 to 3 days, I will do my best to figure out how to do like real interviews on YouTube. Like I remember when I first got started, when I left my job and started doing this full time, I was doing more live streams and having people call in, but the quality wasn't that good. So this is almost 2 years later. Look, I gotta buckle down and try to get this right because I really want to start getting interviews with the cast members, since I feel like I do have a big enough channel to really make an impact. So I do promise that hopefully by the end of this week I will know how to do it. But talking about the episode, I had to go back and forth with Chandler to pick each other's brain because this was it wasn't a perfect episode. There were a lot of things that just didn't make sense, and yeah, I know I mentioned this in my other videos recently. I know it's not real, guys. I know this is just a television show, but there are just some things that either don't make sense from a real world standpoint or from a story standpoint. It's just characters regressing. It's like 1 minute is like, yo, I'm actually on their side for the first time in a while, but then they go back to their old ways, and things are plot points that weren't followed up on from the previous episode. So I said after I finished watching the episode, because I did watch it twice. I watched it last night and I just finished watching it this morning. And I actually recorded my trailer breakdown for next week's episode on The Edge before the review because I knew this review would be on the longer side. But overall, I said bare minimum this episode would get at least an 8 because it was very good. It wouldn't get a 10 because it wasn't perfect. I feel like 9 is a bit too much because I feel like I think last week's episode was better, but this week's episode was very good. I felt like once again, this episode blew me away because of the camera work. We got so many different outdoor shots. We got different locations. The fact that we finally got to see Charles's home was amazing. But the confusing part about that, if you remember like a season or so ago, Charles told Landon to look for him and his children a house near or in Savannah. That way he could be close to Candace before moving into the White House so it wouldn't look suspicious or something like that. But Charles was originally a senator for, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was either Michigan or Wisconsin. So I don't know if the house that they went to was the new one that Landon arranged for Charles to move into off screen in Savannah, or let me just say in Georgia, or was that his house that he had up north in Wisconsin or Michigan. They didn't tell us. And even if it was the house that's, up north, it wouldn't be impossible for him and Candace to get there due to the fact that, they have planes. Like, hell, how do you think they got to the White House, So I feel like, it's something that I wish they would have mentioned, but it's something that I'm not going to complain about too much, because I don't know how much of this we're actually going to see before he moves into the White House, if he does, because we do know that when Jeffrey Owens shows up, I do believe there will be scenes between him and Charles in that house. So one could assume that if Charles kicks Candace to the curb, then yeah, he'll definitely want to get the hell away from Georgia, so he's no longer affiliated with her. So he would just go back to his home state, or at least the state that he was a senator in. So I don't know if that was his home state though. So I don't want to confuse myself. But once again, guys, this episode was really good, but it had me scratching my head plenty of times as well. For example, last week we had someone knocking on the door. We never found out who it was. So I'm going to be that guy. I think it was Derek. Given the fact that Jim was just lounging around Catherine's house, I think that it's safe to assume that it was Derek because Hannah said, let him knock. Benny said he better not be down there when I get done, getting dressed and coming downstairs. He was blowing up Hannah's phone. So I don't think that Derek would be there for like 15 some minutes knocking at the door. So I am just going to say that it was Derek. So we can leave it at that. We might as well talk about the end of the episode real quick because I mentioned Hannah and Benny. So they get to the bank and the money's not there. Apparently, she's the teller or the bank clerk had the paperwork from the last time they were there, had Hannah's signature, just needed Benny's. And Benny just acting like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, why did they do that? Like, there was no need for Benny. Look, because you had already established that you were going to keep the interest money to pay back the Malone. So if anything, Benny should just shut the hell up in that moment. So I get it. It was padding for the episode, but I just felt like, once again, last week, I was like, finally, Benny got his head on straight. He's going to take the interest money, pay off the Malones, and then help his mother pay it back and never borrow money from people like the Malones again. Great. Then we get to this episode, and he's like, well, you sure you want to do all this? We don't want to keep any? Oh, look, no, Benny, shut up. No, I was liking you for like 5 seconds there, but then you just threw it away. But at least he signed the papers. But then the money is gone. There's like a negative $4,000 balance, and what the hell happened to it? Me and Chandler went back and forth for like 20-30 minutes on this because we were trying to figure it out. It seems like Catherine might have took it. I don't know. I don't think it was Candace. I mean, because if you remember, look, let me put it this way. I know that Candace is, rubbing elbows with the president-elect and his staff and whatnot, and possibly could get the money out if she wanted to, but I highly doubt that, because remember, she sent Malik to threaten her mother to sign the documents to give the money back to Candace, because Benny was going to do it, kinda, sorta. Hannah just needed to be convinced. If Candace could get the money from the account without those joint signatures, then she probably would have gotten the money out a while ago, probably during the time after, Candace and Charles had their first falling out. So I'm going to be completely honest here. I hope, and I also don't think that Candace is the one that took the money. Just my opinion. And speaking of money, for whatever reason, Jim only has $3,400 in his bank account. What? So he calls Lloyd to get the $75,000 in cash in order to pay off the Malones. But then Lloyd says, you don't even have that much in your account. Well, tell me, Lloyd, how much is in my account? $3,400. And it's like, well, it just seems, and I'm trying to, I've watched that particular scene 3 times trying to interpret it because I was listening to like speech patterns and whatnot. What I'm trying to process here, and I even did that video yesterday, would Jim be broke if Catherine filed for divorce? Remember, Catherine gave Jim back $10 million last season. This money was not Wyatt's inheritance. Wyatt already had gotten his inheritance thanks to Jennifer Salison, but then Oscar got the account numbers, then he got the money back, but then Candace intercepted it, took that money and put it in her bank account, the Crier company that Veronica had Lloyd set up for her at the bank. So Jim is missing, like, hang on, let me get my calculator. Well, I wouldn't say calculator, but my iPod, because it has a calculator on there. Just one moment, please. So let's just say $10 million minus 3,400, and yeah, Jim could use miscellaneous, like, after he got the $10 million, he did go to the hotel a couple times, probably got a few drinks and whatnot. So let's just subtract all that and just say $3,400. So somehow Jim is missing $9,996, or excuse me, $9,996,600. And then based off the way he was telling Lloyd, it's like, does Catherine know about this? No. Lloyd is like, no, she doesn't know, and don't tell her. And even I'm guessing that Jim must have been trying to get that money from Catherine's account, because Lloyd was like, I was put under strict instructions by Catherine not to give you any money. It's like, okay, fine. So then Catherine comes downstairs, who's still on the phone with Broderick. That's her like second time calling him, and he's not answering, which is obviously due to the fact that the FBI spooked his ass. And even if he was noticing his phone was ringing, he wouldn't answer it anyway because he's playing this game. But then Jim correctly calls her out for, this boy not wanting to have anything to do with you. But we're just going to skip over that part for now. Based off the fact that it's like, I need $75,000. What? You don't have that money? I don't have that amount of money. It seems like, based off the phone conversation with Lloyd, Jim got the feeling that Lloyd or either Lloyd told Catherine, or Catherine is aware that Jim doesn't have $75,000 in his account because, oh, it's that bad, huh? So Catherine either took the money or Jim did something with the money, and Catherine knows that Jim doesn't have any money. Where the hell did Jim's money go? I'm actually at a loss right now. I honestly do not know what happened, but in any case, for Catherine not knowing what a hit is and Jim striking a low blow, but to be honest, it kind of had to be done because something had to snap Catherine back into reality. Do you want to bury another child? So she gets on the phone with Lloyd, acting very cordial. I ain't gonna lie, it wouldn't surprise me if Catherine gave, as Jim would say, Lloyd's fat, sweaty ass some of the good stuff at one point in time. It would not surprise me at all. But in any case, the money's lined up. Jim will go pick it up later that day, and then they'll be good to go with them loans. But let's be honest here, nothing in this show ever moves so smoothly. So for all we know, later in the day, which could be like 5 episodes from now, Jim will go get the money. Mitch will come over later that night, or whatever the case may be, and then he gets shot with the shotgun by Wyatt, which is not going to be good for anybody. So, yeah, the money mystery is really something that's picking my brain at the moment. I honestly don't know what's going on because just based off the way it's sounding, how much is in my account, Lloyd? So it seemed to me that Jim assumed the money was going to be there because he did say, I'm expecting like an $8 million transfer later in the day. So he assumes that Wyatt's inheritance will be put in his account, but that doesn't answer the question about the missing $9.9 million. My head is hurting just thinking about it. So let's move on to something else. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, so Scott has all this intel on Candace at the hotel. Can we just give a standing ovation to Scott? He rolled up in that office and he knew what he was doing. Like literally, him and Kyle had the conversation. Kyle tried to, butter up the situation that, Candace Young did all this to me. But then Scott shut it down. It's like he is showing that he really wants Kyle's job and he has the experience to be the next attorney general. Like he came in there, he had the information, because the one thing I like about Scott is, unlike a lot of people or law enforcement in this series, he wants to get the facts before putting out stories. And he came in there with the photos, the timestamps, the camera, the files and everything. And the best takeaway from this is the fact that, Kyle wants to arrange a meeting with Jim Cryer because both of them have been burned by Candace in the worst possible way. She took their money, but I'm very interested in that, and I'll be doing a separate video on those two because the Kyle and Scott dynamic reminds me of Jim and David. And like I said, it's going to be its entire own video because this review could go 40 minutes over because I have so many thoughts about the episode. So I'm glad to see that Scott is, getting all this information. I'm a little disappointed though, because I really thought Oscar would have came up in the conversation, but we didn't get that far. Let's see here. And yeah, I know I'm getting to the Jeffrey and Justin stuff. Don't worry, I'm getting there. I'm just looking over. Okay, well, let's just jump to the beginning of the episode. So it's a random black guy underneath the sheet, and I'm no expert on this, but isn't that person's eyes supposed to be closed? Yeah. And then David rightfully goes off on Madison and fires him. Basically, Keisha comes up and says, yeah, we got the address, but it turns out it was the building next door to the apartment where Justin and Jeffrey were. So yeah, David rightfully went off. And it could have been worse. Like I said, the hospital could have been sued, or Madison could have just lost his job entirely because he made the wrong call. And that caused a lot of emotional distress. So yeah, I kind of don't feel bad for him because of his mistake. It was completely unprofessional. I do applaud him for, theoretically, if it was Jeffrey, then his parents would have been there for the final moment, even though technically they would have been in the building, yet not the final moment because he was in surgery. So, yeah. So he got fired, and then Keisha consoles him, and it's like, well, kind of had that coming. And that just goes to show, get all the facts before you make a claim. So Veronica sees Jeffrey at the door, like I predicted. Justin's there, and it's like, such a bitch. And it's like, really? Like, really, Justin? So, and I mean, Veronica, I was on her side, but then she lost me. It was good to see general concern for her son. And, not to jump too far ahead, but after getting backhanded, Jeffrey jumped to her aid, because at the end of the day, Jeffrey is her son and Veronica is his mother. But anyway, getting back to the apartment scene. So Jeffrey, rightfully angry that you pulled the trigger, and I don't care if there are blanks in there, but you put it to the gun to my head and pulled the trigger, and then he left. My question is, and this is something that I said in a couple videos that I thought wouldn't be answered, if this occurred last night, was it last night? I mean, the night before? Crap. When did this happen? So, okay. So basically, the triggers were pulled, and Jeffrey and Justin fell over. And he said there were blanks. And then later in the episode, he tells Madison, it felt like my eardrum was busted. That's very similar to how Candace described the gun going off by her head when the Malones shot her. But one could argue that the Malones used a real bullet while Justin used blanks. I could be wrong about that. But in any case, guns went off very close to their ears. So instead of immediately leaving, Jeffrey stayed the night. Yeah. The shooting was at night because they were having dinner. I'm sorry. I had a brain fart there. And this is the next morning. So Jeffrey said he wasn't going to stay. But if Veronica didn't show up, how long was Jeffrey going to stay there? Like, he seemed pretty pissed off that the guns went off, even if it was just a joke. Why the hell did Jeffrey not leave sooner than that? See what I mean? Where the episode was good, but there are some things that just don't make a lick of sense. So basically, Justin goes on about how you took everything from me, except for your life. Well, I have no life without Jeffrey. And then, Veronica leaves. And it's just like, for real, Justin? So basically, they get down to the parking garage, and, this woman comes down because Veronica parked, in a bad spot, so she couldn't get out. And, this is very similar to when Veronica went to confront Laquita in the ghetto, and she parked her car in the middle of the street, and then there are people honking. It's like, bitch, I'm going to move. And then she gets in the car and drives off. It really reminded me of that scene. But in any case, she goes to get security, but before Justin shows up, Veronica's talking with Jeffrey because, once again, she is legitimately concerned because she was told that her son was dead. So guys, in this moment, it's like, okay, I'm Team Veronica. Okay, I'm on her side. She's generally concerned. I can understand Jeffrey being cold towards her because of everything that's been going on between the two. But at the end of the day, this is general concern. This isn't deceitful Veronica. This is Veronica who is legitimately concerned for her son's well-being. Because imagine whatever family member or friend or whatever, somebody tells you that they're dead. You're going to be concerned. You want to see what's happening. And then to actually be surprised and speechless that they're alive. Yeah, you would be concerned, but Jeffrey isn't having it. So the woman comes back with Justin being the security of the building complex, so he gets free lodging because he's the security. And Veronica calls him out. Next thing you know, he backhands her, but not to the same level that David did. I think Chandler mentioned this in the live stream that Justin just knocked Veronica over to the car, while David knocked Veronica all the way to Viacom, because when David backhanded her, she spun like a fidget spinner. And then, Jeffrey, rightfully gets like, what the hell's wrong with you? And then tries to attack, but then, Justin pins him down. And this is another one of those, okay, Tyler, we've seen Veronica, like, literally slap the taste out of Maggie's mouth way back in season 2 over and over again. We've seen her get into brawls with Erica in the elevator, with Melissa after she caught her and Benny having sex on her couch, and she's tried to fend off Quincy, and yeah, so there have been multiple times where we get it. Veronica's even stated a couple times to Jeffrey, if I had the strength, I would beat that feminine, that the girliness out of you. We've seen Veronica get into brawls before. But in this case, she just took her purse and started love tapping Justin like she was Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son. I'm just like, Veronica? You're not even, you got backhanded and you didn't even, hell, even when she was drunk, remember before David backhanded her, she was just pushing and shoving. It was like, Veronica, take your hands off me. And, even in that drunken state, she was putting up more of a physical, resistance to David. Hell, I think she even tried, back when she was watching her wedding video and RK tried to get her to calm down, she got into like a little scuffle with him. So why in this situation, when you got backhanded, you're not beating the hell out of Justin? You're not. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. And okay, I would have bought it if, let's say, she got backhanded and she's literally frozen on the ground because that backhand from Justin, while not as intense as the one from David, it just put her into that mind state of, he hit me. He put his hands on me. He hit me. That would have made sense. But to have her just love tapping him with that purse, I don't get it. So basically, David shows up, breaks up the fight, which begs the question, how close is the hospital to Justin's apartment? Because David was just at the hospital. Remember, at the end of the episode, the sheet was being removed from the body at the hospital around the same time that somebody answered the door at the apartment, and Veronica looked shocked. So was David speeding, or is this hospital very close to the apartment? So he breaks up the fight, and this is where Veronica loses me, because once again, I was on her side, and I'm like, she didn't even do anything to deserve a backhand in this situation. But then she flips it, saying he let him hit me. Like, wait, what? And then goes on to say that, I was putting up a better fight against him than you did. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, yeah, Justin was winning against Jeffrey, but at the same time, Jeffrey at least tried to, tackle him while you just love tapped him with the damn purse. And then, she goes on to say something that's one of the worst things she said to Jeffrey. If you go back to when he finally came out in the episode No More Hiding, where she pretty much said that, she wished that he was better off never being born. But in this situation that, I wish he would have gotten killed. And it's like, oh, Veronica, I was on your side, but then you just, I don't know. So, and then another thing, she says like, you mess with the wrong bitch. So pretty much she's going to get revenge on Justin. And then he has the nerve to say, you should pay me. I pretty much, slap that bitch unlike you. And I'm like, you don't even know Justin. Shut the hell up. And then it's like, what's wrong? Everybody in your family screwed up. I'm like, Justin, you are like one of the last people to talk. My God, get out of here. So basically, looking over the notes here. Yeah, I know I need to talk about RK and everything. There's so much to talk about. Let me just jump to the end of the episode. Basically, David's like, come over to the house, Jeffrey. I'll explain what's going on between you and your mother. I mean, me and your mother. Jeffrey's just acting like a stupid teenager. And then, man, there's just so much to talk about in this damn episode. And then he's like, he'll come back to the house so he can move out. And it's like, Jeffrey, where are you going to go? Jeffrey isn't broke, but he doesn't have that much money. So he doesn't even have a job. So let's just be completely honest. He may try to get like an apartment or whatever, or at least at the very least for right now, a hotel room or something like that. Let's say if Justin wasn't getting, or let's just assume Justin wasn't being arrested at this moment, well, in the next episode, let's just say that, if Veronica didn't go down to the police station and whatnot, Jeffrey decides to move out, he and Justin would have gotten back together like morons. Because remember when David let Jeffrey stay at his condo, Justin followed him there, and then Jeffrey opened the door to let him in. And then that led to, Veronica walking in on them, and then Justin eventually tearing the place to shreds. So he would have gone back to Justin no matter what, like a moron. But I understand, like, there are real couples like this, abusive relationships where, and this isn't me saying anything, because there are over 80,000 people on this channel. There are possibly people in those kind of relationships that watch my videos, so I try to be very sensitive when I talk about certain things. But when it comes to how this is being written on the haves and the have-nots, not in real life, it's just stupid. Like, really? Really, Jeffrey? And then, okay, so let's just move to Madison waiting outside of the house because he needs to get in so he can get his things. And remember, at this point, he's probably getting Uber or a taxi because remember, Justin destroyed his vehicle. So he's waiting to just get his stuff so he can leave, and, that'll be the end of that. Jeffrey comes over, they check on each other, and this is another non-follow-up scene. So after getting into the house, they're kind of going back and forth because Madison is making light jabs at Jeffrey in terms of, his dynamic with Justin, that he's punishing himself and yada, yada, yada. I was actually a bit surprised that Jeffrey didn't bring up the fact, or at least ask the question, so my dad came over. How did he know where I was at? Did you give him the address? Because Madison was the only person that Jeffrey messaged with that address. So I'm surprised that didn't actually come up. Either that was something that just didn't come up, or maybe it's confirmation that Jeffrey was actually trying to get out of the situation, so that's why he gave the address over. So he was somewhat happy that it happened the way it did. But maybe seeing that, Madison got fired because he pretty much made a bad call, Jeffrey probably is like, you know what, you kind of shot your own self in the foot, so I'm just not even going to try to do 3 strikes with you right there. I'm actually a little bit surprised it didn't come up, but whatever, it didn't. So basically, Madison's like, just make sure your dad changes the band-aids, especially, make sure they don't get wet. And that was the end of that. We're not done with Madison. There's no way Madison isn't just gone from the show. So basically, he goes upstairs and gets his stuff, and that's it. Or we don't know. He might be in the next episode when David arrives. I don't know for sure, but we'll just have to wait and see. So after talking about that, looking over my notes, want to make sure I don't skip anything. Scott's at the hotel because I think I mentioned Scott talking with Kyle, but I didn't mention Scott at the hotel, basically trying to get RK to come with him up, stairs. But actually, I'm sorry, I don't want to jump around too much. Let me try to make some sense of this. Okay, so RK goes back to Catherine's house. This fool gets out of the car dancing. He sees Wyatt, who's standing on the balcony, pretty much goes through the front door because Wyatt won't throw the money down. So basically, we can assume that it's like if RK did toss the drugs up, Wyatt wouldn't have given him anything. So, yeah, so he goes in through the front door. Wyatt comes down, but Jim gets to it first, rightfully so, because it could have been him alone for all Wyatt knows, but Jim doesn't know that Wyatt knows who was actually knocking at the door. So RK comes in, and if you saw my video about will RK and Wyatt become friends, really not much to talk about here. Wyatt gave him the keys. Jim tries to threaten him. RK isn't having it. Then he leaves. So basically, Jim is... I don't know why Jim bothers to even stand at the foot of those stairs. He's been owned so many times, either at the front door of the Catherine's house or at the stairs. When Hannah and Candace beat him up, when Wyatt just defies him all the time, when Catherine chews him out, this dude can't win. How many times is he going to say my house? Dude, this is not your house. It's just ridiculous. I just laugh when he says that because I'm like, really? With your $3,400 ass, you can't even afford to pay for the electricity in that house, let alone own the house, man. Get out of here with that, Jim. It's funny, though. So basically, Wyatt gives him the $6,000 watch. And, oh, yeah. I think I'm confusing myself because I did my episode review first. I mean, my trailer breakdown first. Some of the things from this episode I talked about in the trailer. So I'm actually making sure that, wait, did I already talk about this? Yes, I did, but in another video. So basically, Wyatt is complaining about the amount of drugs, but you got to take into consideration that he is a true addict, and the little bag that he got from RK, he can just get rid of that in one snort. But another thing to consider is we don't know what kind of drugs those were. Are they just like base drugs, like, oh, you can just get a little something off of here. But keep in mind that we didn't know how much RK was going to bring back. it was never established how much money Wyatt would pay him. So, and not to mention, it was a black kid driving around in a $250,000 car. So he didn't get pulled over or anything. So even if he did, he wouldn't want to be riding around with so much drugs in his pocket. So a $6,000 watch, you know, he didn't have money. So that was the next best thing. And, you know, part of me was like, that's a little bag, but what if it's some strong stuff? Because based on the next episode, I mean, he looks high, but I doubt it's like very strong stuff in terms of like, you know, this could kill you, because RK gave no warning. Not to mention, it seems like he has a nice little operation here getting expensive jewelry, so he wouldn't want to mess that up. Not to mention the fact that, you know, part of me is like, he has that $6,000 watch, so he's going to go back to the pawn shop with it. Because, you know, if I were him, and I'm thankfully not him, I would have pawned that in and then try to get the jewelry that he had from Veronica, give that back to Veronica. That way Veronica will leave him alone, and then he go about his life. But then the FBI is going to get him next week. But that leads to the Scott situation, where Rocky rightfully says, I don't know, man, this dude looks smart, but RK's like, yo, $10,000 for me, you, and this girl. And it's like, well, that girl doesn't even work here at the prostitution ring. So this was just another, like, really, you could have had Gia there. That would have been awesome, but she's not coming back on the show. And it's sad, because that would have been great to have 3 established characters in this prostitution ring get set up by the FBI. But then we know that Gia was an informant, so that would have been a great way for Gia's true color to be revealed. Then Rocky and RK would have been screwed, because, you know, moving forward, you know, RK, and I mentioned this in my trailer breakdown, it seems to me that RK is going to try to get Scott by himself so he can make the big payday for himself, because it's only him in that room with Scott, and then he's the only one being chased down the hallway by the FBI. But that's in the trailer breakdown. I talk about it more there. But Broderick, you know, it's kind of funny. 2 weeks ago, Broderick was smooth, calm, cool, and collected. He has Captain on the ropes. Last week, it looked like he was about to shit himself, because Scott had all that information on him and threatened to have him deported. He had Homeland Security on the damn phone. Then this week, Broderick just looks seasick. It's like he can't even take this no more. Oh, yeah, the bar, yeah, I'll take care of it. You go ahead and do what you got to do. So he knows it's about to hit the fan. So, yeah, so what an episode, guys. All right, so I guess the last thing for me to talk about is, did I talk about Candace? I think I did. I hope so. They're at Charles's house. It was either the house in Wisconsin or Michigan, or the one in Georgia. Basically, it's kind of messed up, because Charles, I feel like Charles knows that he won't be able to hang on to Candace. So just having her for this long, hey, here's my house, and then here's my wife, and this and that, it's kind of like, you know, it's going to be worse. You know, it's kind of like the higher you go up, the worse the fall is going to be. And when it turns out that he has to let Candace go, it's going to hurt even more. So I guess the biggest thing for that is the fact that Candace misses her son and Charles misses his wife. Yeah. And they do have similar tastes, so that's something else to keep in mind. But it was a great scene. Once again, a new location. And I noticed that it seems like I'm hearing more and more Obama in Charles's manner of speaking. I think that's pretty funny. But overall, that was a good scene. Just once again, a nice change of location there. And to make sure I got everything else, I think the last scene to talk about is Veronica going over to the police station. Once again, I want to root for Veronica, but then she just, maybe it's because remember, I worked in the call center for 3 years at Liberty University's academic advising for the online department. 3 years, never had a supervisor call. I felt like David and Jim, I'll handle it. So I made sure I took care of every call the best I could. But yeah, I've had some, you know, angry people on the phone lines before. Protocol, it doesn't matter who you are. Protocol has to be. See, the thing is, this guy at the front desk, this new guy at the front desk, he was doing what Madison should have been doing at the hospital, getting all the information first before, you know, jumping to conclusions. Yeah, Veronica, it's sad that you got backhanded in the situation where honestly you didn't really deserve to be backhanded. But you need to fill out all this paper. I get it. Like, you know, it's kind of like walking in the hospital missing an arm, but it's like, yeah, you got to fill out this insurance paperwork. What the hell? I'm missing an arm. Protocol has to be taken care of. So he literally gets chewed out by her. It's like, can you see it? Can you see the mark? And it's like, no. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest here. I was kind of thinking that she might try to seduce him. I was thinking she was going to go that route, but basically she has all kinds of restraining orders and whatnot against him, and saying that she would take legal action against his ex-wife, his child, his estate. And I'm like, when did you get this information? Did you get this before you went down to the police station? So maybe that's what happened. That way she can like bypass not signing the documents. So basically the new guy goes to the back, and then the I'm guessing the supervisor or whatever comes out, and yeah, so he gets once again, she's just pressing him to read the documents faster and have Justin arrested. But once again, protocol needs to be followed. So yeah, but Veronica just Veronica is like Jim, where they just think their names can get them whatever they want, and they can just treat people any way they want to. But what it is, I love seeing Veronica command in a room, but I just don't like disrespect like that, because once again, these officers were trying to follow proper protocol, but she just wasn't having it. But in any case, she gets on the phone and calls up a guy to get 5 of his friends who like to rape and maim to like get arrested within the hour and go to precinct 11 for $5,000. He's like, we couldn't hear his voice over the phone, but we can just tell that he thought it would be $5,000 a piece when it was no $5,000 between you. So if it's 6 of them total, I did the math, that would be about $833 a piece. So unlike Toxic, who was forced to get Wyatt to go down on him, he never got paid by Veronica. So I'm willing to bet Veronica would actually pay these guys. At least I would hope so, because last thing she would want is for them to come after her. So yeah, we know Justin's going to be in for next week. But overall, guys, there's so much more to talk about. More videos will be coming throughout the week. This was it was a great episode, but there were just a lot of things that were wrong with it, like things that didn't get any follow-up, things that just didn't make sense from a real world perspective. And then character personalities, just 1 minute I'm rooting for a character, but then it just backslides so much, and it's like, come on, man, for real. And then the mystery of the money is like the big thing right now. So I think that I feel like the past, and I don't want to jinx it, but the past couple weeks, it feels like new life has been breathed into the show. I think that the fact that the momentum of a season 9, just knowing that the show is going to continue forward, has me looking for like the Scott and Kyle thing, man. Shoot, this is great. I mean, I am stumped. Like you heard it here first, guys. Like, I am stumped. Yeah, the guy with the theories, I am stumped with what the hell's going on with the money. I think the feds might have took it, but once again, if you saw that video I did last week or a few days ago about who took the money from Benny and Hannah's account, then that kind of goes into real detail. I'll do a follow-up video, but it's going to be about Jim and Hannah's accounts, but we'll just have to wait and see. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I give the episode 8.5 out of 10. I think it was a fair score. Once again, just the little things that kind of brought it down from being a 9 or just a perfect 10, but I did enjoy it. So let me know your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do I really need to reiterate? Subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Please give this video a thumbs up, and social media links are in the description below, so be on the lookout. I think the next video I'll record is whether or not Veronica deserved to be backhanded. Congratulations on making it to the end of this video. If you like what you just saw, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, or if you have anything you would like to add to the video, make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to keep up with me on social media, go to the description box. All of my links for social media are right there. Also, if you feel like you would like to donate to the channel, make sure to click on the link to PayPal. Any amount helps. $1, $5, $20. As a full-time YouTuber, any support from my fans really does mean a lot to me. Finally, make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon. That way you're kept up to date on any new content I post to the channel. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in the next video.